by then I was married, and I chose to be married thinking that I will escape everything. But yeah, things didn't work out well, and yeah, I am here I am today. But yeah, I don't advise parents to let their children go very early in life. They must let them first establish themselves.
Yeah, I need to create a relationship with my parents, but parents must also make an effort.
Yeah,
It's a two-way street. It's
true.
not going to be something that just happens from one side.
Yeah, and our children depend on us when it comes to having tools.
Yeah.
The importance, I'm like I'm saying, I'm still learning. I'm still learning. And then I have realized the importance of taking care of every little thing that I am blessed with. If you, from the onset, you have been that open parent, that parent who was caring, who was teaching your children, who was walking all the way with your friends, with your children, with your mom, who was valuing everything good in your life, you wouldn't be scared.
Hi community, editing Tageto here. Unfortunately, we did have some technical difficulties with this episode. One mic died and there is some sound. There was quite a lot of sound being picked up. My apologies for that. We will unfortunately not be able to re-record, but I do hope you enjoy this episode.
Hi community, welcome back to Acupfulll. Thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate it. Today I have a really special guest to share her wisdom and love with all of us. My beautiful mother. Welcome, mommy. Well, okay, I don't think that's appropriate. You're my mommy, but you're not everyone else's mommy. Her name is not mommy. Her name is Eugenia. So yeah, to you guys it's Eugenia, or mom, I guess. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me, Mom. We are going to be talking about the topic of living at home with an adult child, being me, because I do have two other younger siblings, but they aren't adults just yet. They're still in their teenage years. And I really wanted to hear a more parental perspective because last week, if you have listened to last week's episode, you would know that I was speaking to my friend Bokang, and we spoke from the perspective of adults that are living at home. But now I really wanted to talk to a parent, my parent, about her experiences or her understanding of a child living at home, what that has meant for her, how she has been receiving it, and yeah, just to get some wisdom from somebody who is a lot older, who has a lot more experience in this life thing, and yeah, just to have that parental touch. So Ma, we are always talking about how you wish you could have and would have stayed at home, at your home, for a bit longer, but you didn't. Why didn't you, and what effect did it have on you back then? You've been quiet this whole time. People think I'm talking to myself. You're supposed to say hello first.
Yes, thank you for welcoming me on your platform. And hello, community. Thank you for taking this time to listen to us.
Yes.
Yeah, so to answer your question, I moved out early from my home. I was 25 years old when I moved out. And looking back, I realized that I moved out that early because I didn't have a good relationship with my mom. And yeah, when I say I didn't have a good relationship with her, she was in a way abusive verbally. And yeah, I thought that maybe if I could have my own space, then things will go well with me.
Yeah.
So that's why I moved early, and yeah, only to find that it affects you mentally, and it also affects the relationships that you have. And yeah, but life went on.
Yeah.
And with everything else, by then I was married, and I chose to be married thinking that I will escape everything. But yeah, things didn't work out well, and yeah, I am here I am today. But yeah, I don't advise parents to let their children go very early in life. They must let them first establish themselves.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and it's also a good thing for your child to be mentally stable, healthy, financially stable, and also it does them good. I mean, holistically, that's all that I can say.
Yeah.
But most importantly, it's for parents to try and build that relationship with their children, so that when they go out there, they are able to differentiate between good and bad things.
Yeah, that's true. Because when you don't have that support, when you leave home and you don't have that support, and you're leaving and you're going out into the world on your own, and you know that you can't even go back to your parents, like you said, you got married and you didn't even want to think about going back home. You also, I think, you end up staying in situations that aren't good for you.
True.
Also because you don't want to go back to that. And like you're saying, the environment you were in was not stable. Your home life was not stable. It was toxic. Yeah. So you stayed in a home, or you had created your own home, but you were not even willing to look back. So you just kind of went through whatever you needed to go through. And I think that's the danger that a lot of parents don't know exists, that when they're kind of pushing their children out and going, oh, you're grown, go and find your own way in the world, they are, whether they like it or not, going to expose them to those really scary things.
True.
You know what I mean? So I think that you're pretty much saying, you're not saying that people shouldn't move out of home, because that's not what we're saying.
Yeah.
But it's important to look at, I even said in the episode that I recorded with Bogan last week, that you need to look at everything. Like, it's not just a one-dimensional thing. And I also like that you said that parents must create that relationship with their children. So obviously, as an adult, it's very important for you to take the initiative and say, yeah, I need to create a relationship with my parents, but parents must also make an effort.
Yeah.
It's a two-way street. It's not going to be something that just happens from one side.
Yeah, and our children depend on us when it comes to having tools.
Yes.
Of navigating through life.
That's very true.
So it must be every parent's dream, I can say, to make their children's life easier and better than theirs, if not the same as theirs, and in a positive way.
Yeah, very, very true.
True.
Do you feel like not having that support structure has impacted you in the long term? Because now you're in your 50s. When you look back in your 20s, and you look back to when you moved out of home and then to moving in with the first person that you ever lived with, Nele Baba. So the first person you moved in with from moving out of home. Okay, but you kind of had the independence because you lived in college. You stayed at Res.
Yes.
So when you were doing your nursing degree, you stayed at Res, and then you moved back home. Did you move back home, or did you then get married to my dad and then...
I got pregnant when
whilst
I was
you were at
still
college.
at college.
Yes.
And then I had to move back home.
Yeah, but that was for a short period, right? It wasn't for long.
No, it was only for a year and some few months.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you got married,
yes.
And then you moved out. And obviously it made sense at the time. But as a 25, 26-year-old everything makes sense, or you think that you have a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But now that you look back on it, you realize that you needed a lot of guidance.
Yeah.
And again, that's why I'm going to just impress on everyone about the point that you made, that it's very important for parents to understand that they are the ones that need to provide their kids with guidance, because they have more experience, they have the tools, so they need to be intentional about that. But what I was saying is, when you look back now on your life now, do you think that it has shaped how your life has turned out? That period, which I think it's a very, how do I put it? The word that I'm looking for. It's a very sensitive period in somebody's 20s. Those mid 20s, you are still trying to figure out your life and understand who you are.
True.
And then you are now also moving closer and closer towards the end of your 20s. So now you're also just like, okay, what's next? Do you think that had you maybe had more guidance and more support, there are parts of your life that would have turned out differently now?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
You sound like I'm not so sure, suspect.
Yeah, I think so. Excuse me. More especially when it comes to the time when I was a young mom. I think every woman needs another woman in their life. Moreover, women who are older and who have experience in their lives when they are young moms. And not only when you are a young mom, when you are a young woman, when you are a young married woman, and when you are a young working woman, ne? I think we do need mothers. And as a Black woman, I come from a family that had lots of women. And I would see my grandmother looking after my aunt when she was a young mom, and the things that she would do that my aunt couldn't do or didn't know how to do. So with me it was different because I had no such around me. So it was only me and you and your dad. So we both didn't know what we were doing. Yeah, but we just enjoyed that we were young and free. But I think we left lots of things out, and it hit us when we had our second child, because now we were in the deep of things. So we couldn't just move on. We got stuck because of we didn't have a good basic, né? And we were struggling a lot, and I had depression, and we just didn't know what we were doing. And I couldn't, when I was going through rough patches, I couldn't go to my mom for comfort or to speak to her about things that I didn't understand. So I just thought that I would figure out a way, and I couldn't figure out things, and it was very difficult. And I had a husband who by then didn't realize that he had mental issues. So it impacted on me a lot as well because of the lifestyle and the way he believed that it was the right thing to do things, even though it was, I could feel that it was not the right way. There was this discomfort, and I was not getting better mentally with my depression.
Postpartum.
So things just got worse and worse. So I think having left early or having been raised by a mother whom herself was not mentally okay by then, I think it impacted more and negatively on my life.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I would think it impacted my life so badly that today I find myself where I am. But because of, I would call it mercy and grace.
Yeah, it is that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see things in a different light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So God has given you an opportunity to see things from a completely different perspective, through a
Yeah.
different eye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm enjoying the fact that I'm starting all over again.
Yes.
And with wisdom.
Yes.
And
That's so
understanding.
good. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it did have an impact, but it was a learning curve.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
good to see things as a learning curve. Sorry guys, you might hear something like a machine. It is a washing machine. I'm busy with the laundry. Sorry, I don't know if you can hear it. If you can hear it, sorry about that. If you can't, then that's great. But I just wanted to add on and say that if there's something else that I'm just taking away from everything that you're saying, it's that as young people, I know for myself as a young person, especially, I had a time where I really wanted to move out and I was like, I'm looking for an apartment, I'm looking for a place. And you would always impress the fact on me that there is no need for me to rush. And I was quite young at the time. I was like 25, 26. There isn't a need for me to rush. But as young people, sometimes I think we are in a hurry to experience things like freedom. Sometimes you are running away, yes, like you did from a situation. Some people just are excited and they feel like they're grown now. It's time for them to go out and experience these things and live on their own. Even Bogang said that, when she wanted to move out, it was because it was going to be a representation of her now. She's grown up now, and that's what signifies your adulthood in the world and society. It's when you move out and you buy your own place or you rent or these big things, buying a car, going on holidays, paying for your own things. And as much as I think that's good, we should all strive to enjoy those things, to experience those things. You shouldn't ignore the things that are pushing you towards doing that. You must understand the motivation behind it, because the motivation is something that will impact you even in the long term. If the motivation is you running away, like you're saying, it's going to have a longer term impact, because you thought that moving out of home would sort the issue out. It did not.
Yeah.
And the issues carried on into your marriage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
you sorry to interject.
Okay.
And you just take anything that comes first.
Yes.
Because of you are looking for something. Yeah. Something that can comfort you. When one is being abused, it's not that, you would always hear people saying, but why did they stay so long in an abusive relationship? It's not that a person wasn't aware that they were being abused.
Yes.
You know that something is
wrong. Yes.
But you try to convince yourself that maybe that's how it should be, because of you don't know any better. You have never been exposed to something different from what you are going through. So you convince, you can feel, but because of no one has ever told you that this thing has a name, you can't say that, I'm going through this. You can't say it. So that's why most people stay. So I chose the first thing that came, because of I was now at a place where I felt that now it's very uncomfortable.
So you need to get out of that house.
But out to where? Because the only thing that I know is being uncomfortable. It's just that I wanted to move because I couldn't take it anymore. But only to find that I was getting into something that was similar or worse. But because of I'm used to that, I stayed because now this person was new. I stayed, but only to find that he was applying the same rules, playing the same game, and I only stayed because of he was new. I thought that as time goes on, then things would get better.
But that's not how it works, right?
That's not how it works.
And the thing with running is you just never stop. That's the issue with running. But also, we mustn't speak from that perspective, because I want this to be a conversation from different perspectives. So now let's say somebody's not running away. They live in a home where they have support and love and kindness like I do, but they're just like, I'm grown now and I need my own space because my parents are adults and I'm adults and sometimes they don't get it. I know you said that parents should also encourage their children being financially established first. But do you think it's the worst thing if someone says to their parents, no, I want to go out and I want to go live on my own? Should their parents just let them? I mean, you can't even stop an adult. You're just going to say to them, go and live your life, but your home is still open to you.
Yeah.
How do you then suggest to people that feel like they really need their own space? Because I always say that you can, for example, when you really want to experience your own space, like go and stay in an Airbnb for one night, go on holiday to a different city, go and visit a friend. That really helps. But as somebody that has a lot more experience, what do you say? Do you say just like experience it, sit through it, but don't jeopardize your well-being, your finances by like wanting to force something that is just not happening? Would you say that they must just sit through it? Because sometimes we need to sit through hard things. We can all, you said it this morning, we can do hard things, we can experience hard things. Or do you recommend that they go out and find their own way and then they'll come back if things get hard?
I think, we must take our children as, yes, of course, you are our children,
yes,
but you're individuals as well.
Sure.
And I believe that experience makes a person find themselves.
Yeah, true.
And also, it's important for one to know who they are. And it's important for one to have experiences so that you can find out what you like and what you don't like, so that you can be able to exercise the choices that you have. And of course, if you have taught your child well, our duty as parents is to teach our children up to a certain stage, and then you stand aside and let them show you what they have learned.
That is a really good point.
Yes.
That's true.
Yes. Yeah. Or exercise what they have learned. And of course, doing a thing for the first time, you will always encounter steep hills, rivers to cross. But your child, if you have a good relationship with your child, they will always come back and say, I was trying to jump over a river or a stream and then I fell in. And then, that's where you will ask them, what is it that they want? Do they still want to go and jump that river? And then they will tell you, if they still want to do a thing, then you will be of assistance. But your children must just always know that they have a home in you.
That's a really important thing.
Yeah. They can go out there, but they must always know that, when I'm struggling with this and this, I can always go back to my parent. Yeah. And when they come back, you don't have to be judgmental. I mean, we are human beings. We are learning every day. I'm also still learning.
Yeah, even though you've been on this earth for almost half of a century.
I'm learning about forgiveness. Yeah. Even though I have been through what somebody else can say, it's horrific. Yeah. But I'm learning to forgive, and I'm learning to build relationships that were broken, and I'm learning to trust myself. So so it's fine. If your child wants to go, it's okay. Let them, and just be proud that now someone that you have been seeing growing up has reached a stage where you see them as adults like yourself. So it's okay.
True. Yeah, so either way, what you're saying is, either way, what's important is that a person must just, again, it goes back to that relationship between a parent and a child, or parents and their children. That's really important, and we can't overlook that. I know sometimes a lot of people say that their relationships have been strengthened by moving out of home with their parents because they don't see them all the time. And I don't ever want to speak against other people's experiences, but I am not for running away or trying to avoid situations, because God forbid, for example, you have to move back home. You know, people had to move back home during COVID because they lost their jobs, people were retrenched. And in that situation, you now have to go back to the thing that you were trying to avoid. So I don't recommend that. I've come into a place where I think confrontation is important, confronting yourself, confronting your issues, confronting other people. True. And we can confront with love, we can confront with understanding, with compassion. But we need to confront, because in a situation, for example, I move out, right? I say I'm moving out. I'm irritated by you. I don't want to be around you. I don't want to be around Tulili Tire. Those are my younger siblings. I move out, I go live on my own. And then there comes a time where I have children and you have to come and live with me. You and Tuli will come and help. You and Tuli and Granny have to come and help. True. And now you guys are with me for a month. I have to, this is now the situation is facing me. So Wakam was saying that you absolutely cannot pretend like the thing is not the way that it is, you know, especially if you live with your parents, or you are around your parents, or you are around whoever. There has to be a way around things. There has to be a way through things, not around them, through them. So you can't keep running away, guys. Don't run away from things. You need to sometimes approach a situation, and we're gonna get into it, but I keep saying, don't put your finances on the line. Don't put your future financial position on the line because you want to fix a problem that is bigger than you. And when I say bigger than you, I mean it's bigger than you walking out of the house and moving out. It's huge. It needs to be dealt with. It has to be approached. So now you're taking out loans, or you're getting a bond you can't actually afford, or you're renting when you can't actually afford it, you know? So yeah, we need to approach things and not run away from them. So I still live at home, and we have come a really long way to get here, where we talk openly about things like finances, and you share some of your own experiences and decisions that you made rather when you were my age, and that have affected you negatively. And you always encourage me to make different choices. How important would you say it is for parents to have those real and honest conversations with their children, especially around the topic of moving out and being in a financially secure or stable place when doing it? Like, how important do you think it is on a scale of what is the scale? 0 to 100. No, we'll make it 100. 0 to 100. How important do you think it is for parents to have like real honest conversations with their children? Real ones, not lies.
It's important.
So 100. Sorry.
100. It's very important.
Yeah.
But you know, I would like to deviate a bit. We are talking on a level we are having this relationship.
Yes, sorry, direct translation. You and I right now. There are people that only speak English from different countries, on different continents that are listening.
My bad.
And I don't think there's a thingy that translates, but it doesn't translate from Setswana to English. Okay. So that what my mom just said, it means you and I basically. Yes. Carry on. Sorry.
We have this close-knit relationship.
Yes. Yes.
Now you get Pella. We mustn't. Sorry. We mustn't exclude others.
Yes, we mustn't.
We are including everybody.
Very important. Yes. Very true. This is a sorry, mommy, to interrupt you, but this is a very sensitive topic. I know that some people that are listening, this is a very sore point for them to touch on, because they would like to have different relationships with their parents,
Yes,
and I'd like to
true.
have more open conversations, but they can't because their parents are so closed off.
Mhm.
So this is a conversation for everyone. That's very
Yes,
true.
yes.
Yeah, we are going to try and
Yes,
accommodate everyone.
yes.
Yeah.
I was going to say it's important to have a conversation with your children, about them being financially stable before leaving home. But there are other children who are not as fortunate.
Yeah.
So their parents are not even there. They're
Mm.
not discussing anything with them.
Yeah.
Like me with my mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The relationship is still tense.
Yeah, the relationship is still tense. She was that person who liked instilling fear in me and who liked shushing me when I had an opinion or when I had a question.
Yeah.
She was one person who liked, she would just walk into the house and to her bedroom and close the door. And we would spend the whole day without speaking. She in her bedroom, me next to the TV. And, the conversations that would be there would be conversations in my head or with what do you call
Imaginary
them?
friends.
Imaginary,
Yes.
not even friends, an imaginary mom. I would have an imaginary mom, or I would have food
as your
yes
consolation.
Yes. So I know there are such children out there who are going through that. So it's important. Yes, it's important. But what do we say about those children that don't have that?
That's very true. And I guess that's why that's why we should have more of these kinds of conversations, in that we then say to people that don't have those kinds of support systems, listen to podcast episodes like this, where you are going to hear from somebody who is a parent that has learned over the years to become a better parent and a better person. And then you'll say to children or young adults or adults that don't have that support structure, listen to or watch videos that will guide you on finances on YouTube. Read articles on financial literacy. Listen to excuse me, watch documentaries that will guide you through those kinds of things. Luckily, we are in a time where we have all sorts of resources everywhere. And even though I can't even begin to imagine, well, a part of me can, because my dad is not present, right? He's not a present person. From a male perspective, I used to long to be able to speak to him and have that connection. So I can understand, but I would not ever understand what it is like as a woman to not have a supportive mother. So obviously I can't really speak a lot to it, but I can say to people there are lots of resources and there are options. Even for me on the podcast, I always say to people, write an email, send me a DM if you want to talk, if you want to if you have an opinion on an episode, if you want to share any thoughts that you have, please do that. So this is also a space where you can get support. And if you want advice, motherly advice, you can send in the DMs and emails, and then I will send them to you, and then you will give me the answers and I will write back on your behalf. We can do as much as we can. We live in a community. I don't just say at the beginning of every episode, I don't just say hello community for no reason. I do see us as a community, and in a community you help each other. You lend a helping hand. So yeah, for people that don't have that support structure, that's what I say. I think they should. On the internet, we have so many resources. That's the great thing about Google. And also, if you have access to therapy, I know it's a privilege because therapy is expensive. Go to therapy if you can. Speak to somebody. Start getting on that journey to sort of repairing those mother wounds, those father wounds, because we do carry those things around when you don't have present parents. So yeah, this conversation is quite difficult to have a lot of the times, because sometimes the moving out of home or staying at home often is one-sided, or it's from one perspective, where people that are talking about staying at home have supportive parents. people that are saying they're moving out of home are people that have the financial means, you know what I mean? True. So we must talk about the people that don't have access to those things. Another thing that I wanted to talk about, I understand that, so I didn't understand before, but now I understand. Mothers are very overbearing sometimes. I know sometimes it feels like, oh, my mom is just not giving me a break. But I think it comes from the fact that you literally women carry their babies in their bellies. Like, we become one with you guys. So obviously, as you see your child get older, it's scary. And I'm saying this because at some point or another, there was a transition or a period where things were changing around, and I'm still a child in your eyes, but I'm becoming an adult now. And sometimes it felt like I just wasn't catching a break. Like, you know, every time I would say to you, I'm going somewhere. Who are you going with? What is their phone number? What time are you coming back? And obviously that thing isn't there anymore. But I just wanted to understand. I'm just saying it's because of mothers are overbearing because of this thing. But I want to understand, and let's just talk a little bit to the fact that sometimes parents can hover and they can be like helicopters. How do you navigate that as a young person? And what's going on in a mom's head when she's just constant? And I'm growing up now. I'm turning 30 next year. Yeah. And, you know, I've become an adult. And I'm aware that also it is not just about becoming an adult. It's about proving to the parent that you live with that you are really an adult, that they can trust you, that you are not going to be a headache, you know, that even if you're not employed, you are helping out in the house. You're asking if they need help with paying for groceries, buying groceries, paying for electricity, getting errands run. So I just want to know, for people that are feeling like, this parent is driving me crazy, how do they navigate that? We're talking about having conversations with our parents, or parents having conversations with their children. But yeah, what's going on in a parent's head? How does a child navigate that? Yeah, that transitionary period is weird, but we do need to talk about it. So how do you, as someone who lives with an adult child in her home, how do you navigate that transitionary period? And I know that we have talked a lot through a lot of things. Some people struggle to talk to their parents. So how do they navigate that? That's why people are just leaving home, because their parent doesn't want to hear anything.
I just think, honestly, if you are a parent and you know that you were not there, you were not there for your child, like myself, ne? Yeah, who is just starting to realize the importance, you know. I'm like I'm saying, I'm still learning. Still learning. And true. Then I have realized the importance of taking care of every little thing that I am blessed with. You know, sometimes, let me not say sometimes, you know, we are human beings. We think we have enough time to do things. So I've realized now that we don't have enough time. So when you are a parent who grew up with that mentality that I can do this and this and this in my 20s, you know, just look at my interests and just a little bit for my children, just a little bit for my work, just a little bit for my friends, a little bit for my mom, a little bit, you know, not giving your all in everything. Sure. When you are when you grew up being such a person, you have left a lot behind, ne? And when you start realizing that now your children are older, then it starts to frighten you that they might leave the nest having not learned anything. So that's when you start, you know, bickering. Helicopter. Yes. Where are you going? Who are you going with? Yeah. But if you, from the onset, you have been that open parent, that parent who was caring, who was teaching your children, who was walking all the way with your friends, with your children, with your mom, who was valuing everything good in your life, you wouldn't be scared when your children start saying to you, bye, I'll see you in the afternoon, or bye, I'll see you in the evening. You won't be scared because you know that from the onset you did things right.
Yeah, and you were with them when you needed to be there, and you taught them,
you taught them, you equipped them, you gave them tools. You know that your children know that God blesses us with life, but we are responsible for taking care of this life. Now, when you only start late, it's late, so you must be in a rush, so that they must catch up. Yeah. So the bickering comes from there. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I know. With me, I know it's because of I have delayed so much, because of I preferred to carry the baggage more than the new beautiful things in my life.
Yeah, so you missed the blessing, and now that you can see that time, also it must be scary to be getting older and your children are getting older, and you're like, wow, my time's getting shorter, because realistically speaking, you still have quite some time, but also you realize that it's limited in the greater scheme of things. It's not like you're 20 anymore, it's not like you're 30 anymore. So it must be terrifying. So guys, that's possibly what it is. Your parents are just projecting their fears onto you, and their delayedness. I don't know if that's even a word, but because of they delayed so much, they're just sort of projecting that onto you. As an adult that lives at home, I've also learned that whether you are employed or not, there are always contributions that you can make. How important would you say that is? So for a child who lives at home, whether you are in a good financial position or you are not, what would you say really helps with showing your parents that you can be trusted? What are some tips that you could give to young people who might feel like, because they are unemployed, they feel like they're useless, for lack of a better word, and they feel like there's nothing that they can contribute? Because also we are Black Africans, right? And a big contribution, the biggest one, will always be a monetary contribution. But let's say someone is not employed, how else do you think a parent would appreciate them showing up and saying, oh, this is the part that I'm wanting to play here?
It's not always that, how can I put it?
It's not always a monetary thing, a money thing.
It's not always a money thing, more especially when you as a parent, like I was just saying, that we are blessed with, God blesses us with good things. Like the good word says that all good things are from above. So money is a good thing, of course, but as God has blessed us with each other, because of we carry lots of goodness inside of us. So if we open our hearts, we can learn or see that the children that God has blessed us with are gifts, and good gifts for that matter. So you will have a child who, you will find that you have a child who's good with calculations in the house. Then they will help you how to manage your finances. And then you will find a child who is good in helping you to see things in a different light. If you were an angry person growing up, you'll find if you take your time and sit with your children, you'll hear one of them when they speak, they discourage, you from having this heavy heart all the time, hatred, pain, anger. You know, they will just direct you in a different corner. And yeah, same with me and my children. That's how they contribute in my life. Yeah, and I appreciate it because most of the things that they contribute in my life are the things which I never thought
you could have, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And it's a generational thing because you look back on the other generations and you can't even see a sign of it. Not even a tiny, tiny sign.
So money, of course, they say it makes a world go round, but I want to have money, ne? I want to have money, but I want to have money and enjoy it, fully enjoy it, knowing that I carry lots of goodness in me. Yes.
I absolutely agree.
So me wanting my children to contribute financially in my empty life, I don't think it would be worthy for me. So your children, of course, they can bring in money, and when you lack, when your soul lacks, you will always want them to contribute more and more and more and more and more. It never ends. So I don't know. I'm comfortable with me having my own money, and whether my children contribute or they don't contribute, I don't see it as a big issue. All that I want is for my children to contribute in giving and sharing love and being honest and true. Yeah.
And I guess that's it's such a balanced answer to give because you are saying that when you are not employed, focus more on the emotional support, the spiritual support you can give, the mental support.
Mental wellness.
Yes.
It's important.
Yes.
It doesn't help that your children are contributing financially, but they are not mentally well. They can't tell you that they can't say it right to you that when you see me, you see money.
Yes.
You don't see me, you don't want to hear me, you are not concerned with my well-being. They are scared of saying that. They believe that when they give you money, you will see through them. And unfortunately, if you just want money, it will always be money. You'll never see through them. So I think the most important thing for us is just to have a close relationship with our children. That's it. Yes. And just be content with what we have.
Yes, that's true. I think that's a big responsibility that parents must start taking on and understanding that their kids could be giving them all of the material in the world but be very empty and unhappy. And we have some serious mental health issues right now, especially amongst men. Men are killing themselves and they are just having a tough time because they feel all of this pressure and this heaviness and they don't have anyone to share it with.
True.
So parents do have a responsibility to not just demand the material things from their children, but to appreciate when their children are giving them love and kindness. And Mogam was also saying that as someone, for example, if you're unemployed, don't feel like you are useless because you're not. When your parent comes back from a long day at work, you stand for 12 hours of the day and you're working, it's a very taxing job. You're working with sick people and you've got to give a lot of yourself to those people emotionally, even physically, because you're helping people out and giving them medication.
True.
You want to come back to an environment where you can relax, where you are not constantly having to run around. You don't have to cook or clean up a mess, you know what I mean? So as someone that understands the importance of support, and just support is such a big thing that we need to be giving to each other, that is a very, very important thing to do. Parents must appreciate that and children should be able to give that. So yeah, that's something that's really, really important. What's your opinion on cohabitation? Your honest opinion, not just an opinion for the podcast. your honest opinion. We're always talking about cohabitation, and then we always say, well, it's not a straightforward. You don't give a straightforward answer when it comes to it. We need to understand, like you said, that we are all different. We come from different spaces. Some people do the cohabitation thing because they just want to get out of their situation. Some people don't know any better. But as somebody who has faith on their side and who has a relationship with God, obviously the answer that you give all the time whenever we're talking about it comes from that perspective. But your honest opinion, what do you think? What do you think about it? Yes, I'm asking again. What are your honest thoughts about cohabitation?
You know, as I would say I was fortunate. Growing up, my grandmother was still alive.
Yeah.
So she believed so much in traditions.
Yes, yes.
And she was an old woman who grew up in a family that had a mom and a dad, and they were three sisters, and they had a brother, and their dad was a herbalist.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so their mom was a sorry, stay home mom, and they grew up in a family that believed in when you move out of the home,
Yes.
you should be married. You just not move out of you just not move out of the home. So she emphasized that with us as well, that we're not supposed to leave homes without being married.
Yeah.
And I grew up believing in that every child must stay at home until they are married. But like you said, some people move out because of they they stay with someone who has the means of of taking care of them.
Yeah.
Maybe they were staying in an abusive home. Some they stay with their boyfriends or girlfriends because of they don't have families. Some stay with their boyfriends or with their girlfriends because of, it's someone who grew in the streets, and this person just, tells them that they love them, and then they take them and they promise them heaven and earth, and they stay with them.
And they're hearing all of this for the first time, right?
Yes.
So it's everything to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why they move in with other people.
Yeah.
So it's for different reasons. But as a mother who has seen the other side of the world, it's not every mother who has seen the side of the world that I have seen. Ne? I would just say to all the young women or the young girls out there that before deciding to do that, just learn to know someone first. And even though you can't know someone
to the
yes
100% extent
yes
or
yes
extreme.
true but yeah, and if it's someone who is true to themselves and to you, they wouldn't want to cohabit with you. They will do the right thing.
That's very true, and we know what the right thing is. I mean, there are people that will say, "Oh, who said that that's the right way?" I just want to add that somebody said something so interesting, and I really liked what they said. We live in a time where we get to say, we all have different opinions. I don't do what you do, and that doesn't make it wrong. No, the reason why there's a definition for right and there's a definition for wrong is because there is a right way of doing things and there is a wrong way of doing things. And whether we like to twist it around or make it however we want to make it, there is right and there is wrong.
Yeah.
And we're not here to make people feel bad. We aren't here to shame anyone, but it doesn't matter how we want to see it or talk about it. There is 100% a way to do things, and a way to do things that is respectful towards the person or respectful towards the people, and there's a way that is disrespectful. And we also take it back to the fact that we are Black Africans. We have traditions of our own, and we aren't Americans. We're not British. We are not Mexican. We have the Black African way of doing things. And I've realized that the more we segue from it or we step away from it, the more prone we are to taking in or wearing traditions and ways that do not suit us, that end up messing with us. So, yes, this is not to shame anyone, this is not to make anyone feel bad, but I am of the belief that there is right and there is wrong. So I do agree with you that someone that cares for you will do right by you. Yeah. And we know what doing right by a person is. True. So, yeah, that's really, really interesting. We're almost at the end of the episode. There's one last thing that I wanted to just get into or talk about. It's now that we've had this conversation and we've spoken about it, even though it was quite brief, because we can have a conversation about this topic the whole day, what would you say is a really, really important thing for everybody to remember when they are making? I know you've spoken extensively about finances and stability and so forth, but what is the one thing that you would say society, the world in general, how we have these conversations, what's the one thing that we must never lose sight of when we are talking about this conversation? For me, especially because I've gotten closer to God over almost now a year. For me, it's always going to be to not lose sight of God. That's my one thing that I keep seeing in life in general, is that I can't lose sight of God because I'm just too weak. I'm a human being to be able to walk through life on my own. So what do you think is something that people shouldn't lose sight of? Oh, something else that I would say is don't lose sight of your humanity or your humility when you are busy making these decisions and making these choices. But what's that thing that, or what are those things that you think we shouldn't be losing sight of when we have this kind of conversation?
I would say sympathy and empathy. So, yeah, we are not all built the same. Sure. And we don't all come from humble beginnings. And we must always use our third eye, or make use of our third eye.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
what's the third eye? For someone that doesn't know, where is it?
We all have a third eye.
Yeah.
It's that knowing thing, inside.
What's it called again? Now, English, the train went right past.
What do you call it? In our language, we call it letswalo.
Gut feeling.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
the
our
gut.
that's our third eye.
Gut feeling.
So when they say you turn a blind eye,
it's you turning the
shushing your third eye.
Yes.
So yeah, even when things are irritating, more especially when someone is irritating, when they are not as fast as you, when they take long to get it.
Yeah.
When
they just don't get it.
Yeah. When they are lazy. Yeah. When they are unteachable, we must have that thing in us to extend our hand. We mustn't lose patience with each other.
Yeah. Even with ourselves.
With ourselves as well.
Yeah.
Even if you don't know a person to that level.
True.
Always show love, respect, and know that we are different for a reason.
Absolutely.
And always try to take someone under your wing. Always. And even if someone is not worthy of a thing, it's what you believe, but we are all worthy of something.
Exactly.
So even if someone has hurt you to an extent that you don't want to see them again, but when they seek help or when they deserve help, you must offer it without thinking twice. Yeah, so all in all, I can say, let's be the humans that God has created us to be. Serve even when it's not suitable to serve.
Yep, and this is for people that stay at home. I hope that you're hearing this when you live at home and you feel like your parents are very difficult. Serve them nonetheless. When you have moved out and maybe you are living with a roommate and it's challenging, serve them nonetheless. If you are married, if you're listening to this and you're married and you're living with your husband, serve nonetheless. It's going to be challenging, but serve. In the context of this situation, it's saying that we must serve and we have to serve each other, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes, though, it will be one-sided, and that's kind of what Jesus Christ did that all the way. He served, he washed sinners' feet.
Yes.
He sat with drunkards.
Yes.
You know what I mean? He
Yeah.
forgave Judas Iscariot. He sat with him. He ate with him.
Yes.
So we need to
And
serve.
he knew him. He knew him.
Yeah,
He knew
exactly.
him.
So we need to serve. You can't run away from serving. You're right. We need to be the human beings that God
And
made us.
forgiving. We
Yes.
must be forgiving,
Yeah. It's challenging, but ask God to strengthen you and give you the ability to have a forgiving heart and a loving heart.
Yeah.
Very, very important.
True.
Okay, thanks, Mom. We are at the end of the episode. Thank you very much for joining us, everybody. My mom is going to have her own podcast soon, so please, I will make sure to share all of those details when that happens. Thank you so, so much for being here. I really, really do appreciate it. If you want to put anyone on, please do let them know that they can listen to A Cupful on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and wherever else they get their podcasts. And A Cupful also has a TikTok page. The handle is at A Cupful Pod. Thank you again. I really, really do appreciate it. Every listen, every follow, every single rating. Yes, please rate the podcast. It reaches more people. And please leave your comments and your thoughts. Everything is in the show notes, all the links. So please do look in that little show note box. Have a lovely remainder of this week. Rest when you need to, work when you need to. Be kind to yourself and serve others. Serve others. And most importantly, don't forget to keep doing the things that fill your